Germany goes to the polls on Sunday, the 23rd of February. Now, these are very interesting times for Europe. Europe is seeing its longest war since the Second World War, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And of course, Germany itself going through economic recession and the rise of a far-right political party, the AfD. Now, the Christian Social Union has fielded its first person of Indian origin as its candidate for these elections from Bavaria. And joining me on the News 9 Plus show now is Siddharth Mudgal, a candidate for the CSU in Bavaria. Siddharth, welcome to the News 9 Plus show.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Siddharth, how did someone from Rajasthan get into German politics, which I imagine is as competitive as electoral politics anywhere else in the world?
I came to Germany to study. So I did my bachelor's degree in India and I came for my master's degree in economics to Berlin. This was about 21 years ago. And at that time, the number of jobs in Berlin were quite low. So Berlin was more of a hippie city. People wouldn't get good jobs there. So in order to get a good job, I moved over to Bavaria, to Munich. And my original plan was to stay there for about 2 years. And out of these 2 years, it became, let's say, 20 years, right? And one point of time, we were looking for support for our Diwali celebrations in Munich. And at that point of time, I got in touch with some people from the local government who were coincidentally from the CSU. So it was more of a coincidence. And they helped us. They gave us financial support to celebrate Diwali about 15 years ago. And one point of time, one gentleman asked me, hey, have you heard about our party? Do you want to, just, look around? And I went to some events and I thought it was a great idea, specifically because I went to Jesuit and Catholic schools in India all my life. My father was in the army, so we were traveling, and these were the schools you could easily enter into. So it was, I wouldn't say a natural choice, but it just seemed okay. The values, the principles were things which I would align with, and that's why I joined the party. It was more of a coincidence than anything else.
Fascinating story. But when one talks of the Indian diaspora, one normally thinks of the diaspora in North America or in the United Kingdom. What's the Indian diaspora in Germany like? What's their strength? How big are they?
Yeah. So a couple of data points. So about 21 years ago, we were about 100,000 citizens. So I was a citizen of India at that point of time. And these numbers have changed. Now we are about 300,000 Indian citizens, and my rough estimate is around 200,000 people of Indian origin like myself. So numbers have changed. Unlike the US and the UK, a lot of the people, in fact, the majority of the people are expats working in different areas, so highly qualified people, but less businessmen, etc. So that's still a domain where Indians are not super active. So that's kind of a difference there. But the Indian population is growing here. They're very well connected, well educated. They earn great salaries in Germany. And they're very well integrated into the society. So integration is not only about language, it's also about how you blend into the culture. I think the Indian community lives their culture here, and it's a beautiful and rich culture, which is also enjoyed by the Germans.
The Indian community integrating as they do everywhere across the world. Now, Germany is going through a churn, Siddharth. Its economy is in recession. There's a far-right party, the AfD. Give us a sense of how politics and the economy in Germany is changing and the big issues in this elections on Sunday.
I think you said it pretty well. If the economy is not doing well, if the times are tough, then people start asking principal questions. So Germany, which has been an industry powerhouse in the past, it is still the industry powerhouse, but it's not doing too well. The gross domestic product is decreasing at about 0.3% right now, which is absolutely not acceptable. Now with this, there's a lot of unemployment rising as well. Unemployment is about 6% right now, which is quite high for Germany. And in those times, people start asking all sort of questions. So why is the economy not doing well? Why are the taxes high? Why am I losing my job? And then it's an easy explanation for populist parties to say, look, there are a lot of migrants coming in from other countries, and that's why this is happening. Now, migrants are of two types, I would say. One are more who need Germany as a country, and then there are migrants who Germany needs. And in this category of migrants, which let's say need Germany, they are asylum seekers. And some of them are actually not real asylum seekers, but they're in the guise of asylum seekers. And the other category is people who have been asked to come to Germany or who want to come to Germany to pursue qualified jobs. And right now, with the rise of the unemployment, rise of, let's say, looking at the bad numbers in the economy, people find it an easy argument to buy in from parties like the AFD to say everything is because of migrants. Now, if you look at the numbers in detail, you'll figure out this is not the case. We have a lot of asylum seekers or people who seek subsidiary protection in Germany from Syria. Many of them have integrated excellently, many of them have not. And according to me, one of the important things we need to do is we need to process these asylum applications super fast. And if people do not qualify according to the criteria set by international, let's say, standards, they should be sent back to the countries where they are from. Why? Because if we process the applications fast, it has two effects. One, we create more space for people who really need Germany and who have real reasons to be in Germany. And second thing, we also need to look at the societal cohesion when people from other cultures are coming to our country, right? And this is something you cannot define it in numbers, but we have to make sure that people who are currently voting for AFD, which is approximately about 18 to 20% of the people, that we are taking their worries and concerns seriously. That is the responsibility of each politician, even if they might not align with the ideology of AFD, which most of us do not do, right? It's the right-wing party. It's a party which is out of all sorts of democratic principles.
Two questions follow from that. The first one is that there seems to be some kind of anti-immigrant sentiment in Germany right now. Do you see that as complicating your own election campaign? What's your poll pitch going to be in these elections?
Look, my party is I would say, center-right party. And it has been gracious enough to accept me as I am, right? And they're not accepting me as I am because I'm the best migrant, but it's because I bring in certain qualifications. And when we were discussing my nomination, one of the reasons for that was the technical skills which I bring in restructuring, and Germany needs these skills right now, right? So the focus has been always on technical skills. That's first thing. The second thing is migration is definitely not the biggest topic for me. And in fact, it is not the biggest topic for Germany. The biggest topic right now is how do we drive economic growth and how do we create more jobs locally? That's the biggest topic. So when I go in and I'm talking to people, I'm focusing on my 2 to 3 key areas, migration being actually the last one out of them, right? So economic growth, digitalization, innovation, that's what I focus on when I'm talking to people and potential voters.
Last October, you had the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visiting Delhi with a very large delegation and a very clear roadmap of where he sees Germany and India, the relations between these two democracies this century. How do you see yourself and your party taking that vision forward? I think there seems to be a general political consensus in Germany where India and Germany need to be. How does your party see this relationship between India and Germany in the context of the rise of China in Asia?
I think, first I'll keep the party aside. I think Germany and India relationships have been becoming stronger all the time. Intergovernmental consultations happen every 2 years. And one of the leaders, either Mr. Modi or the German Chancellor, keep on visiting each other alternatively. And with this, there are a lot of, let's say, decisions being taken. And I'm glad, even though Scholz might not be from my party, they have made a lot of changes to get Indian talent into Germany. Now, the dynamics have been changing. 15 years ago, there were a lot of Indian companies asking for investment in India. Right now, the situation is, yes, Indian companies are still asking for investment, but now German companies are going to India and saying, hey, we need investment back in Germany. We need more jobs here, specifically in the so-called German Mittelstand, which is basically the small and mid-sized sector, right? Where we have big issues with succession planning. So we actually need a lot of investments from countries like India, from partners like India. Now, coming to my party, there have been a lot of exchanges. Our party president and the chief minister of our state, Markus Söder, he's going to travel to India in April with a huge delegation, right? So there's a lot of increase. Recently, Munich Security Conference happened. Mr. Jaishankar was here. As I understand, he also met a couple of political leaders from our party. He was hosted by the minister president, as the chief minister of the state, Marcus Söder. And recently, I was in the state chancellery meeting the Minister of International Affairs with certain senior leaders from the BJP. And why is this relationship very important? Irrespective of which parties we come from. The Modi government is a very stable government in India. The same way the CSU is a very stable party since the last 70 years in our state, and we are the richest state in Germany, with all the big employers, all the big companies being mainly in Bavaria. So that relationship becomes even more important when you're between two poles. One is the US, and on the other side, you have a country like China, and you need to safeguard your economy against protectionism, right? So those are kind of certain areas in which I think India can collaborate. Of course, we can go into the details on which the areas could.
Siddharth, I have to also tell you that southern Germany was where News9 organized our first ever global summit in Stuttgart just last November, next door to you. So I think we know which the most crucial region of Germany is. But while we were there, we also saw a lot of angst about Germany missing out on this new manufacturing revolution in automobiles, in the EV segment particularly, consumer electronics and all of that. Now you're the corporate restructuring expert. Give us an idea of what your plans for re-energizing the German economy are going to be. What's your vision for, make Germany great again, if I could use that phrase, going to be?
Look, you specifically said about the automotive sector, but let me take a step back and look at where the big issues are. One of the big issues which we are facing is that we are losing jobs here. And why are we losing jobs? Because the economy is not competitive anymore, right? There's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape here. So my first ask is that any sort of permits, any sort of let's say issuances of licenses or whatever, they should be done pretty fast. We should have a one-stop shop. We should have a digital platform on which we do it. And this should be any sort of, let's say the duration should be reduced to approximately 50% of the time in the next 1 to 2 years or 3 years maximum. This, I think, will actually open the doors for companies to establish businesses here. The second important thing is we need to make sure that there are certain tax rebates given to companies, specifically in the small and mid-sized. These are like 99% of our companies. They need to get certain tax breaks if they're investing money into the economy, if they're setting up centers which are investing into the latest technologies, then they need to get certain tax reliefs. Otherwise, by default, they'll go and invest in other countries, which is quite okay, but this is not good for the German economy as such. Then I think the other important thing is that Germany needs to realize that manufacturing itself is an expensive capital expenditure intensive industry. So we need to critically decide which are the areas of innovation where we want to invest and also manufacture. But then we need to partner with countries like India, China, or any other manufacturing destinations with, for example, the Make in India campaign, and make sure that we are deciding which sectors are the most relevant for us, where we need a production on site. I'll give an example. BMW is a car company. They have certain areas, certain products, which they say, well, we don't need to manufacture them ourselves. 60% of the value chain of BMW is from suppliers. But they are very much focusing on the 40% core technology which they want to manufacture themselves. And that applies to Germany as well, right? Then I think what is also important is to give incentives to companies who are bringing back manufacturing from outside, from other countries back to Germany. These are some of the areas where we really need to focus. And this has to be looked at very practically. Why? Because if you are manufacturing, for example, cars, we talked about it, you have certain local content restrictions in the US, in China. So if you want to sell a lot of cars there, two of these markets are super big markets, you actually need to manufacture a lot there. With Trump coming in the US, this is something which is becoming even more important. So that's, I think, very important. One important point in the automotive industry, which Germany is very proud of, is actually lagging behind when you look at latest technologies and how quickly innovation is implemented into the body of the car. So if you look at companies like BYD, if you look at Tesla, they might not have the most beautiful cars, but they are very quick at putting technology to work. China has invested heavily in manufacturing capacities for batteries, and they are giving a lot of subsidies for e-cars for consumers and government departments which buy, let's say, buses, right? So that setup, they're actually investing in infrastructure heavily. So it has to be a, let's say, a concoction and a way of working very closely between the government and the manufacturers. And at the same time, the manufacturers really need to bring in innovation super fast into the entire ecosystem. And that's where Germany is lagging behind.
Absolutely, and you're possibly the person who could actually get Germany to pull up its boots and join the race in Bavaria particularly. But I must ask you this, the UK has had a Prime Minister of Indian origin very recently, Rishi Sunak. Do you see the possibility of Germany having a Chancellor of Indian origin in the not too distant future?
Look, Germany is a secular and democratic country. People, irrespective of which origin they come from, Angela Merkel came from east of Germany. She was a woman, or she's a woman. She made it there. It might not happen in the next couple of years, but it might happen at one point of time, right? Germany is very open to this. And I'm proud to sort of say that everyone has equal chances in Germany. Sometimes it takes a longer amount of time. We just need to be persistent.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, Siddharth. Wish you all the very best for the elections on Sunday and hope to see you in the Bundestag and who knows, the Chancellery after that.
Thank you, Sandeep, and Namaskar.